Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamitan Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gauda Chandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Dwapayano Vidaha Katada Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Tadavo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Unimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptashta Kamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Tave Vasmi Na Jivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma, Nitya Lila Pavishta Om Vishnupad, Asto Tarasat Sri Simad, Abhaya Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Jai. And unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Pavishta Om Vishnupad Asto Tarasat Sri Simad, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, to Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of this Chaitanya Bhagavat, we're hearing commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. We offer our most humble, respectful obeisance. So yesterday we finished verse 20 of this 12th chapter, all about Jagai and Madhai. And at that time, we heard that now Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Srila Namacharya Haridasa Thakur have gone out now, and they're going door to door in order to fulfill the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the verse we read was, both were dressed as sannyasis. At every house they went, they were eagerly invited to take their meal. Nityananda and Haridasa would then say, our only request is that you chant the names of Krishna, worship Krishna, and follow the teachings of Krishna. Right? So, they didn't want anything. They didn't even take a meal. They just begged this humble bhiksha. Chant the names of Krishna. Right? Worship Krishna. Follow the teachings of Krishna. So now we come to text 21. Ehi bolabali dui jana chaliyai, ye haya sujjana sehi baddha sukkapai. After speaking in this way, the two departed. Those who were pious became most pleased. So they would stay briefly, make their request, and then move on. But something very special. In the Jaiva Dharma, there was a nice discussion by Bhaktivinoda Thakur of the different levels of devotees, right? Kanishtam, Madhyam, Uttam. And how even one on the Madhyam platform, which is, rare in this world, someone who's, entered into Madhyam, who's begun the chanting of Shuddhanam and developing Ruchi and moving into Asakti, deep attachment, even they have to avoid antagonistic atheistic people. Prema Maitri Kripa Apeksha. They show love, great love for the Supreme Lord and for those Mahabhagavats who are more advanced than them. and they serve them. And for those who are peers, who are like-minded and affectionate, right, other Madhyams, they show friendship and affection, Maitri. And for those who are less developed, less advanced, or ignorant, they show mercy, Kripa. But for those who are envious and antagonistic, they avoid them, right? Apeksha, they just avoid. But in that same discussion, he was saying that as a Madhyam, you can't approach those people to try to teach the glories of the holy name because they'll commit offense, which is harmful for them and harmful for the one who hears it. But the Mahabhagavat, he can instill faith in, or she can instill faith in anyone. They can create faith even in the heart of an atheistic person. So I oftentimes think back that in our early days of preaching, under the order of Srila Prabhupada, we did go anywhere and everywhere, and we did argue and preach to atheistic and demoniac people. We didn't know the distinction, and that, maybe we shouldn't. We were just so enthusiastic to fulfill the order of our guru, and because he defeated everybody, we wanted to try also. But I guess we were protected because we were innocent and a little ignorant ourselves, still are. And so in our endeavors, Srila Prabhupada was always looking over us and protecting us in these dire circumstances because we were in the land of Kali, right? So he looked out for us and we did our business. But from a practical point of view also, generally with these kind of people, you waste your time. There are so many innocents, like a bumblebee. A bumblebee will go from flower to flower looking for nectar, right? And if there's nothing in that flower, they immediately leave it. They don't try to look here, look there, keep in there. They move to more fertile ground, yeah? So it's the same way with preaching. If we only have so much time in a day or a week or a life, we want to, like a farmer, plant in fertile soil. You don't want to spend your effort trying to plant in rocky and unfertile soil that gets no rain. So two kinds of people, right? The two departed, those who were pious became pleased. We'll hear about the others in a moment. The word sujana, which is in the verse, refers to the devotees of the Lord. Jana means people, right? Su means auspicious, yeah? Special. Those who desire superior status and who take shelter of the ascending path are called brahmanas. And those who realize the insignificance of the ascending path and as a result become tolerant like a tree by giving up the desire for various coveted material objects while accepting the mood of being lower than a straw in the street and realizing the uselessness of the honor of self-respect by offering respect to everyone are called sujanas. Right? Persons who are inclined towards Krishna are sujanas, while bhikshukas who are attached to opulences that are not related to Krishna are brahmanas desirous of material enjoyment or liberation. Any brahmana who is engaged in the service of the Lord is called a sujana. One who is not engaged in such service is known as a mayavadi durjana rather than a sujana. So durjana, right, the lowly kind, or sujana, the auspicious. That is why the scriptures, in this case, Padma Purana, describe the sujanas as follows. Swapakam ivaneksheta loke vipram avaishnavam Vaishnavo Varna Bhayopi Punati Bhuvanatrayam. If a person born in a Brahmana family is an Avaishnava, a non-devotee, one should not see his face, exactly as one should not look upon the face of a Chandala or a dog eater. However, a Vaishnava found in Varnas other than Brahmanas can purify all the three worlds. End quote. Inclination towards Krishna is the source of all good manners in this world. persons who are decorated with good manners obtain transcendental happiness by engaging in the service of Krishna. And that goes back, that reminds me of that famous quote by Srila Prabhupada, how can you tell a devotee or a Vaishnava? How can you recognize one? And he said, oh, because that person is a perfect gentleman, perfect manners, right? Inclination towards Krishna is the source of all good manners in this world, right? And persons who are decorated with good manners obtain transcendental happiness by engaging in the service of Krishna. And the most important quality in that is the devotion. And from that, all the good qualities of the demigods are manifest. Right? Now, in the beginning of this purport, he said, he described something, those who desire superior status and who take shelter of the ascending path are called brahmanas. That's the general definition of a brahmana. That means one who's desiring progress and happiness in this material world, and they perform their duties within varnashram system for those purposes. For reward, they perform karma, religious duties, seeking rewards, either happiness in this world, elevation of status, reputation and honor, elevation of heavenly planets in the next life, acquisition of mystic powers, mystic cities, right? Or even liberation, impersonal liberation, right? And they take shelter of the ascending path. In the Bhagavat, written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, spoken by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a speech about Srimad Bhagavatam, he describes the different processes of self-realization. And in that, he describes an ascending path and a descending path. So the ascending path is based on three principles. It's called, pratyaksha. In other words, you're trying to acquire perfection through your own capacity, right? For work, for discipline, for study, and that's varoha, right? The ascending path, and so you might try to acquire wisdom and knowledge by pratyaksha, your own senses and your own mind and your own intelligence, your own endeavors. Or you might also take the collective wisdom of all the other people who have done that, which is called paroksha, which means you want to achieve success in a particular field, you can make all your own independent studies, but if you go to the library, you can read about the studies and knowledge accumulated by people who have done this search before. But that's still based on material sense perception, material intelligence, right? And then there's the path of giving up all of that, aparoksha, and just saying, not this, not that, neti neti, that no reality in this world, that spiritual reality is not based on anything related to the senses, right? Or to knowledge of this world. It's all ultimately beyond that, indistinguishable, without qualities, right? Without activity, without individuality. So that's aparoksha. I'm denying all of that. And that's the path of the impersonalist meditators. But that's all ascending. That's all depending on your own capacities. And there's a ceiling to that because those are all materialistic facilities, right? Facilities of the material mind and intelligence. Even in the renunciation of all of it, the discipline is enacted by that soul still conditioned by these limitations, right? But then there is the transcendentalist who's taking knowledge that's descending. In other words, knowledge and realization. This is vigyan, right? This is realized knowledge that comes by hearing from somebody who is already on that platform. and who is explaining the nature of this world. It's not that you neglect the study of this world, but also the nature of the spiritual world, the nature of one's self and all conditioned souls, the jivas, and the nature of God, of Bhagavan, and the relationship between all of these. Sambandha tattva, sambandha gyan. And then also descending knowledge is defining one's goal, right? How can you understand what the highest transcendental goal is unless you hear from people that have already attained it? There's no way the materialistic imagination could ever conceive of the spiritual world as it exists. It's impossible. So that prayojana, the ultimate goal, is also descending knowledge. And then the process to achieve that goal, right, that's also given from those who have perfected it, right, abhideya. So they went out and they were describing the prayojan, the ultimate goal of life is love of Krishna. So in that, worship Krishna, right? Take up that practice of worshiping. Chanting the name of Krishna, right? Worship, serve, adore Krishna, right? Follow the teachings. That's what they were giving, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So then the next verse, Apparupa shuni loka du janara mukhe, nana jane nana katha kahe nana sukhe. Hearing the unprecedented words from the mouths of these two, various people found varieties of pleasure while discussing related topics. Purport. The word aparupa means wonderful, unheard of, or the form or beauty that has defeated all others. So people that were hearing this were astonished. And this is the same effect that we even see today. People that have sufficient qualification, adhikar, because of previous association with devotees or acts of devotion, accumulated spiritual pious merit, when they hear these teachings, it awakens a joy in their heart. It awakens a sense that, this is true, this is wonderful, this is astonishing. Up until now, in this life, I've never heard such a thing, but they hear it and it resonates with them, right? Kariba keha balaye santoshe, keha bale dui jana shipta mantra doshe. Some happily said, we will do, we will do. Others said, these two are crazy because of bad advice. That's what they were in bad association, and they thought, who are these two crazy people? So Saraswati Prabhupada says, being pleased by the instructive appeal, the Sujanas agreed to follow the request, whereas some unfortunate people considered that they were under the influence of madness. The phrase mantra doshe means faulty consoling or advice. That's spelled wrong. It's spelled consoling. It should be counseling or advice. As a result of distorting the actual meaning of good counsel, one obtains inauspiciousness. So, right, association is all important. So sometimes even Srila Prabhupada himself would go to a university. I remember seeing some video of him at Harvard, and all, very intelligent young men. At that time, I guess it was only young men. Right. Very intelligent people, but given bad advice their whole life. And proud of their intelligence and their argumentative ability, they spoke, some of them, very harshly to Srila Prabhupada. Very harshly. Not in the mood of receptive hearing to consider, but they had this predetermined disposition towards atheism, right? And materialism. And so they became offended by his strong speaking. And, of course, Srila Prabhupada, undaunted, would speak back very strongly, but they couldn't hear. They couldn't hear. And, of course, they would walk out Atheists, they actually jest. They're quite blinded. I've been reading or watching recently a lot of debates between educated theists in the fields of science against atheists, scientist atheists, about creation of life and evolution. The discussion has evolved to a much higher level than in years past with the advancement of science, understanding the complexity and interdependency of all these elements to create the machinery of a cell, and how by materialistic model, it's completely undemonstrable, and it goes against all the laws of chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, everything. But it's interesting to note that while as these arguments are very easily understood by someone who's neutral even, what to speak of pious, the atheistic people can't see it. They're blinded to it because they have cognitive bias, right? If you believe very strongly in something, that's going to affect your ability to understand or not understand various subject matters. There's a quotation again in Jaiva Dharma. The word belief and faith are similar, right? If you have a particular faith or kind of faith in a conception or a belief system, all the evidence that you see is going to be filtered through that lens. And two people can see the exact same thing and come to totally different conclusions based on their predisposition, right? Now, of course, the atheist can argue, well, you believe in creationism, and therefore you see this, even though it's obviously faulty and full of error. But the deeper you go into the study of this material universe, and if you back it up by comparison to scripture, even biblical scripture, which is not so detailed, what to speak of the Vedic analysis and description of creation, then you find, oh my goodness, there's so much parallel here. And even now, they're even beginning to discover that on the deepest molecular level and the functions of DNA and the molecules that support and are the cause of the existence of that, this DNA, which is the information code and direction for life itself, communicates through light and sound, much more subtle than any material element. They're beginning to detect that, which of course goes right back to the Vedic descriptions. So, any case, so if one has sufficient merit, then one will very quickly and easily, that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted so much effort on preaching, because very quickly, those who are pious and have the adhikar, Krishna will send them to where devotees are, because they're meant to continue their spiritual journey. And if we're out there like little Sukriti machines, Krishna will send them. And those who don't have so much merit, but they're generally pious, they may take books, they may, read something, they may speak favorably, and their spiritual piety will increase. And what's happened in the last 50 years is, with this ongoing effort for preaching all around the world, chanting, Harinam, book distribution, the entire world, a significant portion of people have developed a great deal more bhakti sukriti. And many of them have died and taken birth again. And so the next generations of people, there are so many younger people now coming up who have more piety and more eligibility. And they're going to be more receptive. Many of them will be ready to become full-time devotees. Many of them will become supportive. But this effort of preaching spreads the influence of Mahaprabhu and the inclination towards it far and wide. It's very, very powerful. Can't be stopped. Goodness always prevails over ignorance. And Shuddha Sattva always prevails over the modes of nature. And this is the plan of Mahaprabhu, step by step, to see this beautiful bhakti creeper growing from a seed into a vine, into flowers, producing fruit, this is going on the individual level, it's going on the cosmic level. And it's very interesting to be sitting with the perspective of some years, having seen it in the beginning stages, and now analyzing the world. Of course, aspects of the world have become more demoniac. There's no question of that. But aspects of the world have also become very much more pious. So it's always the fight between the pious and the impious, right? The Kauravas and the Pandavas, right? It's always that. So, what do these people say, these unsympathetic, envious people? Tomara pagala hoila dushta sanga doshe ama sabapagala korite ashikishe. You have become mad on account of bad association. Why have you come to make us mad? So they're actually saying in reverse. This is what demonic people do. They ascribe to you their own bad qualities and faults. This is what's going on in politics all the time, right? The most clever are those who smear tar with the brush of their own faults and their own deception. They'll keep talking about somebody else like that over and over and over until you believe it, right? Srila Prabhupada had this, give the dog a bad name and then shoot him, right? That's what they do. So that's what these people are doing. You're all crazy, and you want us to be crazy like you? Bhavya sabya loka sabha hoila pagala nimai pandit nashta korila sakala. Many sober and civilized persons have become mad in this way. Nimai Pandit has spoiled them all. So Saraswati Prabhupada just defines the words. Bhavya Sabya, meaning peaceful, sober, gentle, pious, aristocratic, qualified to sit in an assembly. But of course, they have a complete misconception of what peaceful, sober, gentle, pious, aristocratic means. In the chapter of Jaiva Dharma where Lahiri Mahashaya is talking with his old friend from childhood who had become very educated and aristocratic in the Muslim courts, and he was criticizing Lahiri Mahashaya, or Dvaita Das by this time, because he said, you are not civilized. And he said, what is civilization? Oh, civilization means to wear fine clothes, to speak sweetly, to have fine food, to take meat and wine, and all these things he's talking about, right? To have good manners. And Lahiri says, Dvaita Das says, well, if that's the case then, if that's your description, then a prostitute is the most civilized, because they know the art of speaking sweetly, they dress very beautifully, right? They entertain their clients with, high-class food, so they're most civilized, He was saying that your activity, dressing in a loincloth, sitting in a little hut, like this. He said, this is not civilized, this is crazy. Because it's diametrically opposed to all their attachments. Their idea of civilization is that which supports and fulfills their gross material desires. Right? So, Ye gula chaitanya naritya naipaila dvar tarabadi gele mata bale mara mara. As soon as the two went to the houses of those who were not allowed to see Lord Chaitanya's dancing, those people said, beat them, right? Because a lot of people were curious to see what was going on in the house of Srivas, but they were denied entrance to that most sacred kirtan, so they became more envious. Right? So Saraswati Prabhupada explains, whenever the two preachers went to the houses of those who were not allowed to enter Srivas's house while Sri Chaitanya Dev was dancing and singing, those people attacked the two with harsh words. Some of them even attempted to beat them. While following the order of Sri Chaitanya Dev, the preachers of Sri Chaitanya Mat face similar behavior even today. A former doctor of Sealdah, the Society of Caste Goswamis, the community of pseudo-renunciants, the Saki Bekis, and the 12 other unauthorized Mayavadi Sampradayas are prime examples of such people. Right? And Saraswati Prabhupada ran into this in a very big way in India, because India was entrenched in false dharma. right? Um, and the things that they're experiencing there in Navadvip were very much entrenched in the society, educated society of India, because by this time also, the British had imposed the influence of Western ideals and Western goals and Western philosophical and religious conceptions even more strongly, and those values had also pervaded society. So all these apasampradayas, apasiddhantas, all this was very strongly entrenched. So he mentions that. Right? So someone said, perhaps these two are the spies of a thief. They're wandering door to door on the pretext of preaching. Oh, because the verse says, Keha bali e dui jana kiba chora chara. Right? Chora chara means spies of a thief. Yeah. They are spies who secretly collect information and give it to their leader. They hide their actual purpose and collect information from door to door. I mean, that goes on today, right? People go door to door pretending to be this or that and checking out houses. Is anybody here? Do they have security camera? That's what thieves do, right? And so they were very leery because these people were so attached and demonic, they couldn't see the saintly qualities of Nityananda and Haridasa. Even though who could exhibit those qualities more completely? The humility, right? The inner joy of love of God, right? The compassion towards others. E mata prakata kene koribe sujane arabara asayadi lahibadayane. Why would a sujana act in that way? If they come again, we'll take them to the king. So, there in the purport he says, if they were good people, why would they wander from door to door and speak useless words? If they come again, we'll have them arrested and sent to the religious board. The government under the Mughals, they enforced Sharia law because the Muslim religion is a bit different than other religions. It's not strictly spiritual. In fact, it's wound up very tightly with political objectives. And to follow Muslim religion requires a very specific kind of law, very narrowly interpreted, very strict orders of society, right? And so they would examine you based on those qualifications. And there was some also acceptance that if you were Hindu, okay, we'll try you according to Hindu norms. But the Hindu norms that they drew from were from the smartas and materialistic Hindus, right? So, whereas our principles are not interdependent on material law. I mean, Krishna says, Sarvadharmam pradikshaya mame kam sharanam vraja. That has nothing to do with pure bhakti. A pure bhakta may adhere to social norms just to exist in society, but the social norms are not part of the religious belief. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti only comes from bhakti itself, right? And the practices of bhakti, the varnashram imitates them, but varnashram can't give you bhakti. The varnashram can't give you bhakti. It can purify you and give you opportunity to do pious activity in relationship with devotees and in relationship with acts of devotion. That's the design of varnashram. But it can't give bhakti. Bhakti is completely transcendental and independent. Right? So, Shuni Nityananda Haridasa Hase, Chaitanyara Agya Bale Na Paya Tarase. On hearing such talk, Nityananda and Haridasa laughed. On the strength of Lord Chaitanya's order, they were not frightened. In this way, the two daily wandered from door to door and then reported to Vishwambar at the end of the day. And then, Ek dina pate deke dui mato yayala Mahadasyu Prayadui Madhyapavishala. One day they saw two drunkards on the street. The two were fully intoxicated and acted like great rogues. So there it is, the beginning of when they're going to meet Jaghai and Madhai. And that's where we'll start tomorrow. Very good. So offering obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, our Guru Varga, Rupanuga Guru Varga, all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Haribo, Haribo.